This is Mark Van Doren, and this is capital of the state of Maryland. A small seaport in the 17th century, it has now grown into a town of many traditions. Colonial traditions, naval traditions, college traditions. I'd like to introduce you to St. John's, one of the oldest colleges in the United States. It is by choice a small college, limited to 300 students. It is small so that all the teachers can know each student. Small so that each student can find his own place in the college community. About a century ago, John Stuart Mill, the philosopher and economist, said that men are men before they are lawyers or physicians or manufacturers. And if you make them capable and sensible men, they will make themselves capable and sensible lawyers or physicians or manufacturers. This is the tradition of the liberal arts. At St. John's, this means learning to think, to analyze problems, make judgments, and express ideas.
This is your tone. Let's go back to Cuius Latus.
Every student follows the same course of study: languages, mathematics, laboratory science, and music, which all center around seminar discussions of great books. Before he graduates, each student must write a thesis and defend it in a formal oral examination that bears on his whole education. He keeps preparing right up to the last moment. Each student is expected to answer questions that relate his thesis to the whole 4 years of study. Perhaps the best way to see the unity of the college program is by listening to parts of a student's oral examination and then going back to see where some of his ideas came from.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. President.
I present the candidate for the degree of Bachelor of Arts, William Herbert Barrett, to be examined on his thesis, Political Facts and Natural Law.
Mr. Barrett, would you give us a brief summary of your thesis?
My thesis is about the statement, might makes right. Many people accept this statement as a political fact. I don't. To show that they are wrong, I have to prove that might makes right is not a law of human nature. Now, there are many kinds of laws, and they're not all the same. There are civil laws and scientific laws, laws about the way things are, laws about the way things ought to be.
Many kinds of laws. Differences between them had come up in all of his classes. But it was in the laboratory that Barrett first began to see the basic problem of law.
3.8. Ready? Roll it. .8.
3.8. Are you sure?
3.8.
Oh, say, Mr. Wilburn,
Yes?
look at the results we've been getting.
It's not so bad.
They look pretty bad to me. We're about 1/10 off.
Well, that's pretty close to what other people are getting.
Yes, but according to Galileo's law, we should get 3.9. Why can't we get that?
Do you think Galileo did better?
Why, sure, he must have. It's his law.
Well, suppose you didn't even have a watch and had to measure time with a flow of water.
Did Galileo do that?
Yes. He had a large flat pan with water in it, and a hole here, and underneath a flask, and the water was allowed to go into the flask.
And he counted the drops of water.
No, he might have done that, but as a matter of actual fact, he put the flask on a balance and calculated the time by the weight of the water.
That doesn't seem very accurate, though.
I suppose not. But even with this equipment, Galileo was able to see that the distances were pretty close as the squares of the times.
Yes, but being close doesn't prove anything.
No, but if, after some other experiments, we can fit this law of motion into a general theory of motion, will that help any?
Yes, then a law is a law only because of other laws.
Why not?
Roll it.
Questions and answers. Sometimes satisfactory, sometimes not. In the laboratory, the student tries to discover what the scientific understanding of nature is based on and how far it can go. In fact, although Barrett's thesis was on politics, he used what he had learned about nature in the laboratory to help him explain what he meant by natural law.
You seem to be using nature in several different ways.
In a way, I was.
Is there any distinction you're trying to make?
I was trying to distinguish between the nature we study in the laboratory and the nature poets talk about.
I don't see any difference in a poet like Lucretius.
I was thinking of Wordsworth, who couldn't understand why people wanted to live in cities. He thought they ought to get back to nature.
Is this related to Rousseau's idea of the noble savage?
Yes, that's what I was getting at. Rousseau's distinction between man in his natural state and man in society.
Could you state clearly what that distinction is?
It's the difference between doing something natural and something conventional. You know, we say it's conventional to wear a necktie.
But your thesis is about something more important than neckties.
Yes, it is. It's about how people should govern themselves and if there is a naturally right way to do it. The meaning of the word nature is very important.
The meaning of words. They are examined in every class, but particularly in making translations. In Greek class, for instance.